you go, Mr. Tim Russ.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I think this is the first time I've been to a convention in Utah. And it might be it's probably the first time I've been to Salt Lake City. I think I went to Park City once during the wintertime. I think it was years ago. So this is the first time we've done a convention in Utah, in the Southwest. I think I've only done a few shows, and it's either been in Nevada, I did one in Denver, did one in Oklahoma a couple times, and I think, and obviously Las Vegas a few times. So not too often in the Southwest. So this is the first time I've been to the state of Utah. So very, very, thank you all for having me here as a guest, and I appreciate it very much. I was just at a show in England a couple of weeks ago with 3,500 people, so that was a little bit busier. Very busy. So I'm glad you guys were able to come. I enjoyed seeing Living Witness earlier on today because I hadn't seen that episode in a very long time. The Voyager that I was able to direct while I was on the series. And I'll talk to them about, I've got some, also some short films that I did. I've done 2 volumes of short films recently with some of the people from Trek as well, here and there, and they're just original short stories, and I've got a collection of them called Frame of Mind 1 and 2, and I'll put, if I can get a chance to show one of them somewhere at some point in time, I'll talk to the people in the media about it for the media place. They're only like 8 to 10 minutes long, and there's maybe 1 or 2 that we can pick out for you guys to see there. There's a couple of them I think you'd like, but also I've got a children's project called Bugsters, which is a book and CD, audio CD combination. It's 2 short stories, about 11 minutes apiece, and and the CD short story. The CD is fully produced. It's the voices, myself, Chase Masterson, Ethan Phillips are on there, and it features music, a little story, a couple of different stories, and it's designed for children between the ages of 4 and 7, and they can read along with the CD. They can read the book because the text matches what's on the CD as well. So those are, I don't have those with me as books because they're hard to transport, they're pretty bulky. So they're available on Amazon. It's called Bugsters, Tunes and Tales, and that's what that is. So, and it's again for kids between 4 and 7, roughly, is about the age range. So, yes, anyway, this Q&A is up to you guys if you want to ask me about some things related to Trek or perhaps other things. I've been involved in music for 30 years, actually 35 years. If not longer, and we'll be here tomorrow morning performing, which is an unusual time, 10 o'clock in the morning, for me to be singing. It doesn't usually start until 10 or 11 at night, typically, so it's unusual. Thank you very much. You can't guarantee what it's like at 10 in the morning, but I think the earliest I sang was at 6 or 7 on Howard Stern's show. I did Howard Stern's show a long time ago, and I performed with a band at that time, and that was like 6 or 7 in the morning. I got to tell you, that was no easy feat. It was on the East Coast, so I had to fly out to New York the night before and then get up and go do that, and that was rough. But anyway, so yeah, I'll be here in the morning to perform this one. Yes? What's it like between movies and television? It's not that much of a transition. The only difference is that depending upon the movies, they're shot differently. The schedules for shooting are different. And feature films, you generally have a little bit more time to get the work done. You typically, unless it's a really, really low budget film, they're trying to get a lot of pages shot every day, then it'll run like a TV show. A TV show shoots 7 or 8 pages a day. A big film will shoot maybe 2 or 3 pages a day, depending upon the budget. So, and they'll shoot that all day long. It's 12 hours, 13 hours for 2 or 3 pages. But TV series shoot between 7 and 9 pages a day for television shows. So the pace is faster. It's more rambunctious. Yes?
I was wondering if you had to sing in some of the Star Trek episodes a little bit. Does that make you nervous to get ready to sing on your part?
You mean as far as Voyager? Very little. the singing. I don't have to worry too much about that. The doctor did more of that than I did. No, not really. Well, I think I sang something on one of his CDs. I sang it was just a one verse of one of his songs, and it was a blues song. So I just sang one verse of one of his songs on his CD, and I forgot which one it was. And I think that we were at a convention at one time, and someone asked us to sing a cappella, a tune together. He just threw something out, and I sang the harmony for it, and that was it. So, but otherwise, we don't normally sing together. You see, Bob does any number of things that he puts together for some of the conventions himself. He does some stuff with Ethan Phillips, which is a whole presentation, like a play or like a short story or whatever, and things. So he does, and he has his own CD and stuff as well. It's a parody CD. It's very funny. So, but we haven't performed. We haven't done anything together other than that one time at the convention. But yeah, he's funny. He took over all the singing on the show. I was just an observer. Yeah, they figured, I guess, that my predecessor played the lute, so they got that out of the way, and I was going to do something else. Perhaps ice skating, I don't know. It could have been just about anything. But yeah, it was Mr. Bob. I just saw him last week as well. We were at the same convention together, myself and he, and Ethan Phillips as well. It was good to see them again. It's been a while. Even Beltran was there, so yeah, it was cool. A long way from here, though. Boy, was that a long way from here. Yes? My favorite thing to have directed?
Yes.
Well, I really enjoyed the episode of Living Witness on Voyager. I enjoyed that a lot because I had all the things that I needed to get it done, the best I could. I had, the budgets, we had the crew, we had the location and the sets and all that. I mean, it was so nice it's a luxury to be able to do that. All the other projects that I've done thus far have been very, very, have been low budget, so there's a lot of things you have to do without, and you don't have as many crew, you don't have as many of the production value that you'd like to have. I think secondarily behind that would probably be, there's a film I directed called, what is it called? Night at the Silent Movie Theater, which was fun. I got a chance to work with Phil Lamar from Mad TV, and Tony Todd, Candyman. He's both of those guys are great. So I worked with them. It was about 3 years ago that we filmed that. I think it was 3 or 4, and that was fun because those guys are a kick to work with. So I enjoyed shooting that as well, and I think that's still in post. They're trying to clear one of the songs for licensing on that before they can release it. We'll see what happens, but that was fun as well. So yeah, those two projects, primarily Living Witness, because of the availability of having the budget behind it. I mean, that episode cost as much as, if more than a lot of independent films cost to make, just for one episode. So, and it's pretty consistent, actually. Yeah, that's it. Did you have a question?
How did the crew of the Voyager feel about basically playing bad guys versus...
On Living Witness, how do they feel about playing the bad versions of themselves? Oh, they enjoyed it. They had a great time because they could do that. Whenever you could do something that wasn't the same every week, oh boy, you jump right into that. It was a kick, and it was fun, of course, and they did a very good job of doing so. So yeah, they enjoyed it, and I liked doing it myself. It was fun. It was great to be able to break the mold once in a while because you don't get that many chances to. The shows you got to be fairly. You guys are the heroes, so you got to be pretty consistent. So yeah, that's right. Yeah, and so whenever you can break the mold, oh man, we jump into it. That's the best. I only got a few chances to do that myself. Yeah, so here.
Going forward, where do you see yourself? As an actor or as a director?
It's a little both. Because all those gigs, the directing jobs don't come as often as the acting jobs will come. Because the only way that you're going to get those is if you write your own project and you manage to get it funded and produced and whatever. Or if you have a relationship with someone, a working together creatively on a project from the ground up, or if somebody's referred you to them to direct a project. You have to get those jobs by networking a lot if you haven't created your own vehicle to direct and get backed and funding for it. So those opportunities are rare. They just don't happen that often. I've had at least 3 or 4 people talk to me about directing projects, but the projects themselves never materialize because of the money. So the acting work comes in, the phone rings, and that's how it works. I don't go out and look for those jobs. They come and you go and read for them, and that's it. That's pretty consistent. I mean, relatively speaking. I'm waiting to hear back on a Disney pilot right now. That I shot the pilot 2 months ago, roughly 2 months ago, and I'm waiting to hear back if they're going to pick that up or not. And that would be, it's a four camera show 5 days a week. Shooting a show for this thing for Disney, which would be fun. It'd be a lot of fun. It's a fun character. So waiting to hear back on that. So if that comes through, I'll be pretty busy for a minute. Yeah.
Yeah, can you tell us about some of the pranks or practical jokes you all played on each other on the set?
Oh, on the set? Oh.
Yeah. I read some legendary stuff.
There was. I know that we did one. I did one where I think it was in the first season. It was the show with the prison ship. Was it Garrett and it was Ensign Kim and Paris that were trapped on this. They were imprisoned on this like a prison barge. And Katie and myself, at the very end of the episode, we rescue them. We come, there's a big chute or something that stuff comes down, and we came down that chute. We slide down with guns in hand and stuff like that, and to rescue them. And I think one day, we were shooting that scene, and Kate's supposed to come down first, and I'm supposed to come down right behind her. And once you get down there, everybody's standing around. And I went and got like the makeup artist used busts for all of us to make makeup pieces and to do hair with as well. So I got one from the makeup department of, who was it? Nana Visitor. I got one of hers. And I put a wig on her and stuff like that. And I took it up there so that when they started rolling, it said action, Katie comes sailing down there with the gun, and I didn't come down. I took the head and rolled it down there. I screamed before I did it. I rolled the head down, okay, it goes bouncing down onto the... It just took him a minute to figure out what the hell was going on. Because it was just a head. It was funny. They didn't expect that. And I don't think I said anything to anybody either. Sometimes I'll tell people, I'll tell the cameraman. Usually I'll tell the cameraman because if he's shooting, I want him to keep rolling. I'll tell him, Sometimes I'll tell the director. Sometimes I won't. The actors, of course, never know. But the director, sometimes I'll tell him only because, I might ask him, he may have to facilitate it, or he may, if he's pressed for time, he may not want to bother because he's got to get stuff done, But if it's a fairly decent day, the time's not, we're not in a crunch or anything, I'll just suggest something. And I know that there was one that made this, a couple of them, the blooper reels, where I get shot by the phaser on the bridge at my station, and it takes me about 10 minutes to die. That one's been on the air. That one's on YouTube probably by now. And there's one where I have to lead the little girl into the cave on the episode of Innocence, where she's supposed to go in the cave, and I'm escorting her to the cave, and then I let her go in, and then at the last minute I said, I screamed, "I'm not going in there!" I took off running back out the full blast away from it. The director actually went along with that, and that guy was not, he was not the kind that usually would do stuff like that. I mean, he was always very serious, and he never smiled, and he was always very curt and short. And I thought, well, I'll ask him, and he said, yeah, sure, go ahead and do it. I said, oh, great, fabulous. So we went ahead and did it, and it ended up on the blooper reel as well. You know, the one that they keep showing all the time. It's funny. We had one where I came out with the crew with the nightmare that he has. I think it's the doctor's nightmare or something like that, where he envisions the Tuvok coming onto the bridge completely naked or something like that. And the crew is looking at him, and it's a very embarrassing situation for him. And I think it's a doctor show. I can't remember which one it was. And we shot the part where I come on the bridge, and then we turn around and shoot the crew's reaction. They're all standing at the center of the bridge, and they have to react to me standing there naked or whatever. So I think I had a robe on and some shorts, and I just, I had the makeup, the wardrobe guy, do a little prop work for me. A little enhancement, if you will. And the director, I think, did I tell the director that? No, I didn't tell the director. And I think I told the cameraman. And what I'd do was, it was either Doug. Doug was always on the camera. Doug Knapp was a cameraman all the time. And I would just go to Doug and I'd say, Dougie, just keep rolling. Whatever happens, just keep rolling. Doug knew what that was. He knew that was code for, we're going to have some fun. And so the director told the cast not to break out laughing, from what they saw, story-wise. If he comes on the bridge naked, they were going to be sort of, uncomfortably embarrassed or awkward or whatever it may be. He just wanted the reactions to be fairly subtle, not just they would start laughing and pointing and all that. He didn't want all that. So he wanted a subtle reaction, and which would be like being embarrassed for me. But so when we shot their reaction, I'm off camera, so I can give them an eye line, something so they can look at me, and I'm standing just right next to the camera, and I had the robe on and stuff. So the director said action, and I opened the robe up, and so they lasted about 5 or 6 seconds. And they were holding it. They were trying to hold it, and they finally lost it. But that's what that's the reaction he wanted. He wanted that reaction because they were caught off guard. Because they didn't know I was going to do that. So it's genuinely surprised. That's what he wanted. So in a sense, I was only helping him. That was funny, man. It came all the way down to here. Outside of my shorts. He loved that. The only problem with those jokes is that after that, you got to do it again. And then that thought is in your head, and you can't get rid of it. So we had a couple. We did one where, let me see. Oh yeah, there's one I think where there was also one of the doctor episodes, and he was imagining Tuvok going through Pon Farr and grabbing a phaser and holding everybody at bay in the mess hall. And I think there was a shot of Ethan Phillips, Neelix's character, reacting to what was happening. So he just turns around, he hears all this commotion, he turns around, and he's looking, and he's in shock that the Vulcan's got this phaser, and what's he going to do? And it's just a single shot of him. And so I still had my uniform, I was on the set, and I was off camera. And so once again, I went up to Doug. I said, Doug, just keep rolling. And he says, no problem. So when the director's at action and Neelix turns around, he says, oh my God, what's, because the Vulcan's doing something not supposed to be doing, and he's reacting. I ran on to the set, and I grabbed him, and pushed him up against the counter. I had my way with him. couldn't print. I don't know if they printed it or they had to put that in the vault because they didn't want that getting out. That would cast us in a bad light. But we enjoyed it. It was fun. So yeah, we did. There's a few things that we did now and then. You know, during the course of the show, that you know, I wanted to get one more in there and I couldn't. I was trying to get one more in the last. Might have been the last show, might have been the last episode or the one before last. I was trying to get one more in on the bridge, and I couldn't get it to work because I didn't have. It's got to be the right moment, you know, and it's got to be the right setup in order for it to happen. I was going to get one coming out of the turbo lift, you know, by myself, and going to my station, but it was. I think that. There was one day when I possibly could have done it, but I couldn't. I didn't have time to get a hold of the props because I needed something from hair. I needed maybe something from makeup. I wasn't sure I was going to do it, but I didn't have time to get it because they were rushing to finish the day's shoot, and I missed that window. It was the only window I had, but I was going to get me one. You know, when the turbo lift opened, I was going to come out of the turbo lift with this huge afro wig. And I started singing some, you know, R&B tune or something. I was going to try to get a silver tooth or maybe two. Dang it, man! I was going to do that. It was going to be fun. It just didn't work out. But that was the last one I was planning, you know, to do. It's hard to get. I mean, you know, because it's got to be the right time. It's got to be the right time and the right opportunity, the right setup, and then it's perfect. But so there was a number of times where we did that throughout the years, throughout the seasons. It was fun, and then of course, the director wasn't always happy. But yes, you were asking me earlier.
When it was your turn to direct, did any of the other cast?
Did they try to? No, you know they didn't. When I directed the episode of Living Witness, they didn't try to punk me, as it were. They never did. I was kind of expecting that to happen. But they were all very cool about it. Yeah, they never did. And I don't know that many people actually, or the other cast actually did that much of that. Ethan, every once in a while, would pull some pranks, you know, because he's pretty obnoxious, that guy. I don't want to say, you know, that he's not that bright, but it takes him an hour and a half to watch 60 Minutes. Thinks Sherlock Holmes is a housing development. If I ever need a brain transplant, I'd like to have his because I know it hasn't been used. Ethan's a good friend of mine. I like Ethan, but then again, I like falling out of trees too. He's good to people, but he does some stuff once in a while. Man, that guy, he was terrible. He would always bother me. He was on the bridge and I was on the bridge at the same time. He'd always give me grief, constantly. He just wanted to see me crack. He just wanted to see me break. So he was always a pain in the ass to work with. But I like him. He's a very good friend of mine. I like Ethan. We still hang out once. We used to hang out. He just moved back to New York City, so he used to live in L.A., so we used to hang out every once in a while, have some fun. So he's good people. Very good people. I'm glad I had a chance to work with him. Yes?
Garrett Wong came in convention a few years ago and said that all of the male members of your cast were really good friends. Is that true, or was he?
Yeah, no, there was a time, you know, for a while that we would, the guys from the cast would get together and just have dinner or something together. And we did that a few times over the years. And that was kind of cool to look forward to, you know, because you see everybody over time, and each time you see them, they changed a little bit more, and we got a chance to go over things and a little bit of reminiscing. Yeah, it was fun. That was very cool, actually, because it doesn't normally happen. Quite honestly, it almost never happens. Even if you work on a show for you know, half a decade or more, you know, a lot of times you don't socialize that much in person on your personal life with the same people that you work with, and that's very commonplace, actually.
He also said that you came home from doing a convention like this ill and nearly died.
Who, me?
Yes.
Well, it wasn't a convention that I came home with. I think I had a run-in with an embolism at one point in time, but that was not necessarily coming back routine during the week. Back there, I was working out a little bit, doing this, going up to read for stuff, and I just wasn't feeling that well one day. I went in and had to, it was a blood clot that I had, so they fixed it up real quick. But yeah, I could have gone the way of the dinosaurs in about a minute.
He made a joke.
He made a joke. Yeah, no, it wasn't a con. It was just, I think I was just doing what I normally do. No, it was pretty straightforward. But yes.
I wanted to ask, so were you the big prankster of Voyager only, or were you like the big prankster of most of the things you're acting in?
No, I think that on particularly Voyager, I think I was the only one that did most of the pranks on there. My character has to be pretty straight the whole time, so I guess after a while it just got to be, 16-hour days, man. You got to do something to break it up. You go crazy. But yeah, I think I was the only one that pulled that stuff the most. I don't recall anybody else doing a lot. Setups, where you go through the trouble of setting things up, with props and all that. I miss those days.
I was just wondering, there's some episodes where you just show up and that's it. You
Yeah.
show up at the beginning. Do you still get paid? Will the main characters still get paid the same? So you go, oh, I only have to do 5 minutes. How am I going to get paid?
Yeah. You can either be there on an episode for every single day of the shooting, with reams of dialogue, or you can show up for, a couple hours, shoot your scene, and go home. It just depends on the story. Whichever story. Yeah, that's a flat salary. Yeah, you get paid. You get overtime if you go over 10 hours? Anything over 10, I think, or 11 hours, you get overtime, and then you have a flat salary that you're paid for the week. And it doesn't matter if you're there for 5 minutes or there for 20 hours. It doesn't matter how long the days are, how much dialogue you have. The only thing you get extra is overtime. And meal penalties and some small things like that, but mostly just overtime. Those are good. Those are decent days. If you can work 15, 16 hours, that's extra bread, But yeah, it's the same. And there were a number of those. Everybody had those days. It was pretty much the whole week off. Yeah.
Your part in Spaceballs. How long did that take to shoot?
Spaceballs. That was maybe what was it? It was Yuma, Arizona. Hot as blue blazes. I think it was just about 3 hours, maybe less. Probably less, because they had to shoot. Each one of those was a different setup. So all they did when mine was, it was a single shot, and then they had the long shot to establish it, and they had the tight shots as 2 setups, and maybe it was 2 hours at the most. It wasn't very long. It was an easy day, except for the heat. Yeah, and a black helmet. Oh man, putting your head in the microwave. Yeah. What's that? The comb wasn't heavy at all. It's just, I don't know what they made it out of, but it wasn't that heavy at all. Because it's just a prop. You see it from a distance. But the desert, yes.
Out of all the projects that you worked on, which have you enjoyed the most?
You mean since I started working?
Just as an actor or a director.
Oh man, projects. Well, the one, there was just one I kind of, where I enjoyed it because it was fun. It was just fun to shoot it. It was fun working with the people I was working with. And it was called, it was a series called Freddie's Nightmares. It was based on the Freddy Krueger, Friday the 13th, whatever, Nightmare on Elm Street. So it was a series. And I had to play a scientist. And we were in this lab, and there was this stuff that caused human beings to turn into a pile of blue powder, just completely disintegrate and be turned into this. It was some kind of virus or bacteria or a bug, like Andromeda strain or something like that. And if you were exposed to it, it would turn you into this pile of blue dust. And I was working with 5 other, scientist characters, and Tony Dow from Leave It to Beaver was one of them, right? And which is kind of a kick. I mean, I was growing up, and that show was on, so we saw it every once in a while. So it was kind of nostalgic. But we had to wear these hazmat suits, that were. It was a low budget thing, man. because these guys spent like 20 cents an episode. It was they shot it in some warehouse out in the valley, you know, and it was just a you know, it was a cheesy series, you know. Oh, I want to say tongue-in-cheek to some degree and cheesy. So we had these big, what do you call them, asbestos fire, what they were was fire suits, essentially, that were supposed to be our biohazard suits. So they were really heavy, and once you had the thing on with the plate, you couldn't hear each other, the dialogue. You couldn't hear the cue lines back and forth because it was, you know, there's no sound coming in. Once you got it on, you couldn't hear anything, and you couldn't hear them, and we were cracking up the whole time. Fogging up the thing as well. Like it kept fogging up, so they had to put these little fans in there. Oh, it was crazy. And we were laughing and goofing off that entire week. It was like a 5-day shoot. We shot it in 5 days. And we were just laughing and goofing off the entire time. I mean, it was just hysterical. And I haven't had so much fun on a set in a long, long time, just for such a, and I was just a guest star on a show. We were all just guest stars. It was, you know, each show was a different story. It was an anthology. So there wasn't a star that was on there, regular star. We were all on there for that one episode. And I think at the very end, my character gets exposed to the virus or whatever. It has a different reaction, I think, than what they expected. And I think, oh no, it's a nightmare sequence. So my character, I'm so terrified of becoming a pile of blue dust. All the other characters around me end up becoming that way. And I think it's just me and this other woman who are left behind, are the last ones that are left, and he has a nightmare about, you know, the stuff getting into his system and affecting him. And he goes off in this tangent where he's doing this, he starts being all these different characters. You know, I did Scotty from the original episode of Star Trek. So I had some kind of thing where I had to do that in Scottish. Then I turned around and I become Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz. And then I had to be somebody else. And then I did a Saturday Night Live thing. It was 3 or 4 different things that had to happen to this character. And then all of a sudden he wakes up from his nightmare. If I recall, I think I'm the last one who survives that. I think my colleague she ends up becoming a pile of blue dust, and I'm the last one left. And that was the story. It was, you know, it was just ridiculous. But it was fun. The whole week was just a blast. You know, as far as the acting stuff, it was great. I've done a series of short films as well. I have 2 volumes of short films called Frame of Mind 1 and 2, like I mentioned before. There's some time that maybe you can see them. Those have been fun. Some of them have been fun to work on. Those have been kind of, they're just, you know, shoestring budget things we shoot there with a couple of guys in Orange County for kicks and stuff, and they're fun. So, yes? Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, sorry. I'm not looking this way.
So you had a fairly prominent character in the Dragon Age video game, and I was wondering what it's like doing a video game with all the different dialogue trees for lines as opposed to doing a TV show where it's more of a set script.
Oh, well, you know, if we do, typically I was on a cartoon for a while doing voiceover work. It was called Symbiotic Titans. It was on Cartoon Network for a season. And I did a regular character on there, a recurring character on there. And when we shot that, we all came in, and we actually were all in the studio at the same time. And the director would say, well, okay, we're going to take the first 2 pages all the way through, and we would go do the dialogue as if we were doing it on stage or doing it on camera, which was really cool because then you can play off of each other in terms of the dynamics and inflections and things and interpretation. So that was fun. The video games, they're all done you're just going off by yourself. You do everything, all your lines, all at once. So it's different in that respect. And you tend to end up doing each line maybe 2 or 3 times. Then you move on to the next line 2 or 3 times, the next line 2 or 3 times. And it's just the dialogue written out by itself. And it's different than film acting because you don't have a camera. You're not using your facial expression. You have to use your voice. So everything has to be interpreted through your voice. All of your emotions, all the nuances have to be enhanced. You have to elevate those. The very first one I did was an episode of Spider-Man, and that was a lot of work. I didn't realize how tough that was. To get this hyper sort of emotional quality and dynamic to your voice. because you don't have the camera to read your face. So you have to do everything. You're only listening, so you have to feel what that character is going through, what they're saying, only through your voice. And that's a neat trick. It's not easy to do. But the dialogue is written out for video games. You just go in and record all of them at the same time. Audiobooks, same thing. It's just you. If you do the cartoons, typically they'll bring in the whole cast, and you read it through back and forth like you're doing a play, a radio play. And then it's a lot more fun, because then you have them there, and of course they're all goofing off. So that show, and working on that show was really a kick in the pants. I enjoyed that a lot. As a matter of fact, I'd like to do that a lot more. Those are sweet gigs. You know, they don't pay a tremendous amount of money, but you know, sometimes you go to work and you can only live there for 10 minutes, and you go home and you get paid, like I said, the same amount of money for 10 minutes or 2 hours. But you can get out of bed and go there in your PJs and your robe and work, and then go home. So, because you're not on camera. So it's great, man. I dig those gigs. I like them a lot. That's why they're so tough to get into, because everybody else likes them a lot. I took a couple of workshops while I was over the years for voiceover, so I was able to get some of the finer points of it. But going into it, essentially what I did, and what most actors do, is if you're working as an actor first, then you take those skills and you just translate them to the voice. But the trick is to make that bridge. You have to emphasize that much more. You have to put a lot more on what you're bringing out of the voice. But you can play the emotion because you've done that as an actor. So the next step is just to boost it up, you know, to enhance the nuances even more so, and the emotional points even more so. It may be the words that you push, you know, that you wouldn't push as much if you were on camera. So all those things come out to be, and all, you know, when you do the VO, you're being directed as well. The director's there. They're going to say, well, give me more, give me this, give me that. Can you make it more? Can you do this? And you're going to do it 3 or 4 different versions of that line, and then just going to pick one to use, and that's going to be it. The hardest thing is the audiobooks. Those things are really tough to do. Every time they would call for me to do one, I would say, "Oh man, you know, for the money, you got to do the gig because it's a paying gig." But then you're thinking, "Oh, I'm going to regret saying that I want to do it because I got to sit in that room for hours. You can't move, you can't make any noise because it gets on the microphone. So you have to sit very still for a long time, and you got to play 32 characters, 32 different voices." And you've got to remember those voices the next day when you go in to do the next piece, because some character showed up in the first 10 pages, shows up in page 55, and you're like, "Oh man, I forgot who that is." And they have to play it. They got to go find it, and they got to play it for you so you can remember what his voice was. You know, ambassador such and such, and you know, somebody else, soldier this, that, and the other thing, and some other main character, and you have to do all the female voices as well. So you have to play the female characters, also those, and you have to do the dialogue back and forth between you and you. And you and you and you. There could be 5 people in the stupid scene, and it's you. Plus the narration. I'm like, damn, every time I sit in those things, I'm thinking, oh man, why did I take this gig? Because I hate doing them. They're just terrible. You know, the video games are fun because well, not fun, but they're easier. It's just when you're just doing the one. Sometimes you do 2 or 3 characters. It depends. Sometimes they do hire you to do at least a couple of different characters, but you're on that character till you finish, and then you move on to the next character and do that character, and it's just the characters. But audiobook is the narration plus all of the other stuff, and then it's just you in the room by yourself. Man, it's painful. Painful, yes. Marcus Welby, you're dating yourself. You're dating both of us. Let's see. I would enjoy doing. I want to say fantasy, but some kind of fantasy characters I would enjoy doing. something from the Middle Ages, something like that, that time period, classical period. I haven't done anything like that on feature films at all. I haven't played characters from that genre at all. I've done sci-fi, I've done the drama stuff, comedy. I've not done something like fantasy, like whether it's the Snow White and the Huntsman, for example. You know, something like some character out of something like that. I would enjoy doing something like that. I would love to do something, some of the Middle Ages or something along that line. It would be very cool. I don't even think I've read for any of that stuff. I don't think I've ever even read for anything from that time. So I haven't had the opportunity to go up for something like that. I would enjoy doing that, for sure, yes.
You have such an incredible voice, coming back from here. Have you ever considered doing Shakespeare or theater?
Yeah, I've done Shakespeare in the past, and I've done some theater in the past as well. I don't do as much as I used to because the time that needed for theater is a pretty good, you need a block of time for rehearsals and you need a block of time for performances. And what happens is, because of where I'm located in Los Angeles, you know, my schedule has to remain open for television and film projects. So if I'm to do anything at all for theater, it's probably going to be in the summertime, and it has been in the past. It just doesn't happen that often because I need that block that I can't, it's uninterrupted, essentially. With film and television, the phone can ring anytime. It rings any day, anytime. Usually after I book tickets to go on vacation, that's when it rings. So you have to be available to go read for a project. I mean, Voyager was a project I had to go read for. If I was not in town, I wouldn't have been able to read for it. I wouldn't have gotten the role. So, you know, you have to be available to do that stuff. And later on, I think I'm going to probably transition to doing more stage. I would like to do a couple of musicals. I'd like to do a couple of dramas. At some point in time, I just have to say, okay, I'm not doing any more TV film work right now. I want time to do a good show, a good play, and just go ahead and do it. And I just haven't done it yet. Not necessarily. You know, it just depends on the show. It depends on the play. You know, and also the budget, you know, where they're going to be doing it, putting it on. Yes. Oh, yeah, I do. I mean, I do read novels, you know, and most of them, the majority of them tend to be sci-fi. When I was younger, you know, my favorite writers were H.G. Wells and Jules Verne and all those. And, lately, I've read everything from, I read Asimov, Greg Bear, Crichton, Kuntz, Stephen King, and Arthur C. Clarke. And I'm reading something, I'm reading something now. I'm reading, I think, a Kuntz book now, but I think one of my two favorite stories have been The Taking and also Langoliers. I liked a lot. As far as sci-fi goes, those are my two favorites so far. But I do read, yes, not a lot. I mean, whenever I get to it. I'm trying to read a script right now that the producer who did Gods and Men that I directed wanted me to look at this other script he sent me, and it's a sci-fi action, big action thing, man. I mean, I'm looking at this thing going, dude, you haven't got money to do this. And I'm trying to read that script. I'm at like page 20 or 35 on that one. I've got to get that done as we speak. But yeah, I do have it. From time to time, I do read novels, yeah, yes. Oh, yes, Kate, go ahead. The last day was very melancholy because it was strange because they were taking apart the sets. You know, when I showed up, they were taking the sets down. So one by one, once they were finished shooting, they would take that set down. So when I walked on there, some of the transporter room was gone, the medical station, some of the corridors were gone. So you could see where everything was coming out of there. And that was, you know, that was a very strange feeling to have after having been there for such a long time and calling that place home. You spent so much time there, more time there than you did at your house in many cases. And that was really very strange. see, it was kind of melancholy. It was kind of subdued going in there to work the last day. I think the last scene I had was with Captain Janeway in her briefing room. That was the last scene I had, I think, on that show. And a lot of the sets had been torn down by that time. So I did manage to get a piece of my station. Oh, that's good. Yes, Jamie.
You were talking about Gods of Men and Gentlemen and the Geek.
Yeah.
And tell us about you being on James Call's Star Trek set or Gods of Men.
Oh, yes, Gods and Men. When we shot that, James Cawley in upstate New York, he built this. Basically, it's a scale replica of the bridge, 360 degrees. He has the same carpet, he has the same buttons, he has the same everything, and they're all designed exactly to spec. And he's built corridors, he built auxiliary engineering, he built briefing room, he built transporter room, and he has the actual plates that they used in the original series. He has the glass plates they stood on for the transporters, right? He built those, so everything is built to scale. Not the entire ship, but certainly parts of it. And I was pretty impressed with that when I walked in. I was amazed at what he did. So it was like, wow, okay, cool. When you shoot that bridge, you can shoot it 360 degrees. I mean, he had all the stuff there. So it was pretty neat. It was in the middle of summer. It was 95, 100 degrees, and it was 100% humidity and no air conditioning. That wasn't fun. We had to shoot at night because it was too hot to shoot in the daytime. So, I mean, we were just dying in there. The 5, 6, 8, 7 days we were there, I think it was. But all the actors showed up on time. They all came and delivered very good performances all the way through. We had people, special effects, that volunteered. We had a camera crew that volunteered. The post was done by a team of 5 guys who also did all the CGI. So a lot of people pitched in because they just wanted to be part of that project, and I wasn't expecting it to look the way that it did when we finished. Then we shot the other 3 days over in LA. We shot that with a full crew and air conditioning and some other things. Just those basic amenities. And there was no cell service in upstate New York either. We had no cell phone service. I think I had to stand under a tree in the rain to get service, just to get a call out once. I mean, it was ridiculous. It was really hard to do that, to not have that kind of communication, just that alone, to be able to call people and let them know what's going on. Things weren't working, so it was a nightmare, yes. Very good, thank you. No, they were having a tough time finding the captain. We shot a couple of a briefing room scene and a bridge scene. I know I was there. I shot 3 or 4 times with 3 or 4 different people. You know, Genevieve Bujold was one of them, obviously, and then there was 2 other actresses one was out of New York, one was out of LA. We shot the same scenes at least 3 or 4 times with 3 different people because, you know, they were testing them. And they were, you know, it just didn't work out until Katie came on board for that role, and she's tailor-made for that part. I mean, she's tailor-made for it. At the end of the day, you know, casting is not so much it's not alchemy. It's a science in that if you get the person who has the personality and the behavior and the speech and the physical attributes, you get them and you put them with the character. So 75% of your job is done because they are that person. So there are elements of the character I played that are in my personality. I know that because my friends tell me that. So there are elements of me that I can fall out of bed in the morning and go do the character. That's what you need. The other 25, 20%, the director is going to tweak and do this, whatever. That's your acting. That's your putting it out. But a good chunk of it is you. So Katie walks out on stage, man, you know, if she comes out and says, you know, yells 4 or 5 orders, sits down and says, engage, man, you, like, oh, well, she's the captain, obviously. She did soap operas for years, Ryan's Hope. She could memorize dialogue in about a second. The woman never screwed up her lines. It was frightening how good she was. And she had a lot of them, you know. I don't need all those lines, you know. You guys would offer me that today, I'd say, no thanks, thank you very much. I'd rather do the cameo once in a while. So she was very good. She was tailor-made, and they were half debating about captain if they couldn't find anybody. But they read her twice. They read her early on, looked at other people, and then they brought her back. And my God, it was like, well, nobody who else is going to do it but her. You know, she has that. You know, she's physically not really big. She's a very, you know, she's a fairly small frame woman, but she had the voice. She had the. She's like her. I mean, I know her. She has compassion. She can be very compassionate. She can be very emotional. She can also be hard as nails. And that's the way she was. That was Captain Janeway, man. And she walked into that role like, you know, you could just, like this. That's how it's done. You've got to get the person to match the character. You're halfway home. Person, character, done. Works out well, yes.
You mentioned earlier that you had a children's project.
Yes, I had a
Can you tell us
children.
about that?
Yes, it's called Bugsters, Tunes and Tales. Yeah, Bugsters, B-U-G-S-T-R-S. Yeah, it's a book. It's a book and audiobook combination.
Did you write it?
Yes, I did. I co-wrote it with my daughter's mother back in the day. This is years ago when we actually put it together. And then we got it picked up by a publisher out of New York, a small publisher, Woods and Water Press. And then we did the audiobook CD first, and then we did the book later. So we produced the audio CD, and then later on put the book together, and we said, well, let's put the whole thing together into one. And so there's children's music on there, like 6 or 7 or 8 songs that have to do with insects and bugs and all this kind of thing. And then there's the actual book, which is 2 short stories, 11 minutes apiece. And it has all the voices of myself, Chase Masterson, Ethan Phillips are on there, and all playing the characters of the actual bugs who live in this little village in the swamp. And there's a couple of stories that are, you know, basically character lesson stories for the kids, working together to solve a problem. And the other one is about being afraid of the unknown, things you don't understand or unknown, being afraid of them, and there's nothing to be afraid of in many cases. So that's a story of a lesson about that. And they're cute stories, and they work really well. Ages 4 to 7, basically, is what I mean. They should be available. I think it's Amazon or somebody has it on there. I don't remember exactly who's selling it. So I think it's Amazon. Yes. You know, it was tough after 4 or 5 years of doing the same thing. You know, because as an actor, you want to try and do something different. So, you know, 4 or 5 years, seasons in, you know, you're thinking, oh man, boy, I'd like hiatus to go just a little bit longer. You know, we have a summer break, and we waited for the last day of that break. You missed, you know, because you're going back and doing. It's very much a monotonous thing. It's a routine. 16 hours a day, 14 hours a day, 12 hours a day, and it's very monotonous, and it's very slow. We'd always have people come to visit, guests on set, you know, and they're all, oh my God, they were so excited, and oh, we get to see a shooting, and they just can't wait. You know, after about 6 hours, 4 hours, they're like, Jesus Christ, they said that line 50 times already. Yeah, 50 times. Yeah, all of a sudden they're not so thrilled anymore. Because you're watching what's done when it's finished, not the process, which is like, well, I don't know, it could be the dentist chair sometimes. Because you have to do it over and over and over again, and it's monotonous, and it's tedious. And that particular show was because of the production value, everything was very, very meticulous. It wasn't loose. We didn't shoot that show loose. Other shows, yeah, they're a little bit looser. You could have some fun with them. Try it. You can't change a word of dialogue without permission. You know, if something was the slightest bit out of focus, if the hair was out of place, let me tell you, they don't play around on that show. Everything, if the scene was out on the wall behind you, no, we got to do it again. And, you know, it's like, man. So it was very, very rigid and meticulous to do the same thing for that long a time. And plus, my character doesn't have any emotion, so that's even harder to do that like that, you know, not be able to have some fun and live it up a little bit. So, yeah, it was very tough. It's work. It was work. Yes, that's it. Yep. Very good. Thank you very much. We'll be signing a little bit. We're signing some pictures, autographs.
Tim is set up in the art show room for autographs, so if anyone wants to go and get his autograph.